Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Sorry for the delay. I was having some technical issues with signing into this process. So this is my live Q&A, but before we get started and we get some people on here, um, I want to discuss a topic that a lot of people ask about. In fact, there's an article I wrote that I linked into the description today, and it's a huge reference article about all the different ways I've either written about or discussed on podcasts on the topic of mental toughness. And there's some ways, smart ways to train your mental toughness. And most of them you don't even think you are for the most part. And what I mean by that is, for instance, today, in this today's workout, kind of brought this topic up because it was 21 degrees here in Maryland, which, for mid-Atlantic area, that's pretty chilly. And we were outside working out, did a 2-hour workout outdoors, where you have to keep moving. Otherwise, you're going to get cold. You have to dress warm. Otherwise, you're going to get cold. Um, and it's fun. I will tell you, there's multiple places where the mental toughness scoop is added to your life. And that is when you're laying in bed, probably around 5 o'clock, 5:30, and you have a 6 a.m. workout where you have to be there. Don't have to be there, obviously, where you get to be there. Um, and you're in bed looking at your phone and you see it's 21 degrees outside. And you're really comfortable. There's that moment right there where um, you have a choice. You can get up and get moving and head outside, right? And show up, or you can stay in bed. You're basically doing things that are challenging you, things that are hard, because it's really easy to stay comfortable in your bed when you could probably get another hour of sleep because you're tired. But you get up anyway and you do it. That is a scoop of mental toughness, and you get these little scoops of mental toughness one day at a time, one event at a time. Uh, they don't come all at once, and now you have discovered you are now mentally tough, or you have created mental toughness. Mental toughness can be tested for sure. Like, you can do a big event that's a 24-hour race or something, and that's tough when you're running all day and you are not sleeping and you're just eating while running. Those are tough mental tests, but they don't necessarily build mental toughness. They actually test mental toughness. The way you build mental toughness is one day at a time, and it is um, one of those things that is just life. Life adds it to you. Like, I will tell you this. Like, I thought I was pretty tough in high school. Played 3 sports, and I worked hard, made good grades, and studied hard, and had a job on top of it. And I was constantly busy. I busied myself. When I could have been a little lazy and done nothing. Um, that got me to the Naval Academy. When I showed up at the Naval Academy, I had realized real quickly that I was not the best one there. Um, and started failing things pretty regularly my first year. I think that was probably one of the most humbling times of my life, where I realized that, I'm not the toughest guy, I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the fastest guy. in the room, and I got to up my game, right? I had to make a decision to bring it every single day. Those are the kinds of things that I think will build mental toughness that last you for life and build those habits that create discipline. And then when you create this discipline, you just get up anyway. 21 degrees is not even a factor. And that's where it becomes part of your life, part of actually getting tougher because you're doing tougher things and you're enduring a whole lot of discomfort, and not necessarily pain discomfort and physical discomfort, but just mental stress and academic challenges and work challenges and everything that just makes you just a little bit more resilient for future challenges. I think that's where a lot of people screw up with going into like spec ops training programs when they're really underprepared, not just physically, but mentally unable to handle the type of stress that's about to be put on them because they're just haven't endured enough. That's why I am a constant um what's a good word for it? I'm a constant preacher for people who think at 18 years old they are ready to go serve in special ops programs. Now, don't get me wrong, I get proven every class because there's an 18-year-old that makes it through, but there's also a significant number of 18-year-olds that do not make it. 18-year-olds make up the majority, and 19-year-olds make up the majority of the attrition rate, especially at SEAL training. It's the way it is. 80%. That's a lot. So not only are they physically ill prepared, but they're typically mentally ill prepared as well. And it's just a perfect storm for failure. In fact, if you read the article in the description, it'll show you some things that are all about mental toughness, whether it's a podcast or some other articles. And I write about these things. Now, I will tell you this: there are smart ways to train mental toughness, and there are stupid ways to do it. In fact, I have a saying that is there's a fine line between mental toughness and stupidity. And if you find yourself constantly injured or sick or unable to train because of previous training sessions or previous tests that you've endured, you're not really doing yourself any favors, training that kind of mental toughness. In fact, you're not even training mental toughness, you're enduring a test. That is great. It might prove that you have some mental toughness, but if you're broken and you can't train and now you're going to decondition yourself for 3 months because you got to get surgery, that sucks, right? That's not very useful, right? So you got to find useful ways to do this. Some things that I recommend is wake up early when you don't feel like it. Go in the cold, go in the heat. But there's safe ways to do that too. You have to dress properly. If it's in the heat, you got to dress properly. You got to hydrate. You have to make sure you have electrolytes, especially if you're sweating profusely. So, a lot of people can say, hey, I'm going to go run 20 miles in 110-degree weather. Well, that's pretty hard to do. That's tough, all right. But if you're not properly hydrated or have a system that allows you to hydrate throughout that process, chances are you're going to hurt yourself or potentially even kill yourself from a heat stroke, things like that. So those are types of things you have to worry about. There's a fine line between mental toughness and stupidity. And that line pretty much is held on pretty firmly on if you're hurting yourself, getting injured, um, getting sick from just pure burnout, overstress, that's no way to really build mental toughness. Now, once you recover from that, you might be able to look back and say, I am now tougher. That's okay if you feel like you've progressed in that direction. Sometimes those challenges like that are some of the things that we really need. We need to be able to endure getting injured because that's a mental and a physical challenge. I feel like my body has let me down when I'm sick or injured. And it's just like this mini depression that occurs that I have to get out of that funk real quick and start training. If I have a bad leg, I can still do upper body stuff. If I have a bad shoulder, I can still run, right? Or whatever. So there are things that you have to do to get around those type of things. So there's a lot to mental toughness. That's why I put the link that I did, because there's probably 30 different articles and videos and discussions on that very topic, and you might find something that you like. Like I love what Jocko says: if you want to get mentally tough, do tough things. Goggins is one of those guys that really pushes the boundaries of mental toughness to a point where he is hurting himself. And if that's part of your process and part of your you plan for that, that's one thing. But if it's going to prevent you from being able to serve or being able to do your job, then it's stupid, right? That's just all there is to it. So I've seen a lot of people screw up their special ops career before it even started because they did something that was so hard that it broke them. They needed surgery. And lo and behold, that surgery and that injury was disqualifying for that person, and he couldn't even join the military. So that's how bad it can get if you are not careful. Plus, I've seen people die and read about people dying preparing for special ops programs because they went beyond mental toughness and into that stupid realm. And it could be completely avoided. So, all right. So, let's chat a little bit. Take some questions. If I don't have any questions, I'll explain a little bit what we're doing this week. Looks like Adriel has something. Doesn't a lack of mental toughness just mean laziness? 100% of my moments of quitting happen to be thoughts of comfort. Could be. I mean, call it what you want. I don't care. It's lack of mental toughness means you are enjoying comfort, probably a little too much, because um, once you can figure out how to get comfortable while uncomfortable, that's when it clicks, right? You're not worried about getting uncomfortable. You have created some discipline to get out of that comfort zone, right? And so think of it this way. Here's the evolution of the entire process. And you'll like this one. You can write these down because these are good. It all starts with an inspirational fire, right? You get inspired by something, whether that is a movie inspired you, a quote, a poster, whatever. For me, Top Gun drew my attention and inspiration towards joining the Navy. As corny as that sounds, that's what it did. Mid 80s, I was looking for something I wanted to do when I grow up. I was like, wow, that looks really cool. I think I'd like to do that. And I did everything I could to put myself in a position that I could have that option, right? I worked hard, I played sports, I took leadership roles in schools, got into a service academy, and I was on my way towards that process. So that inspiration can really drive a lot, but inspiration doesn't last long because that inspiration kind of evolves into motivation, and you're really motivated that first few weeks or month of whatever it is. Um, so that inspiration goes into motivation. Motivation doesn't last very long. It's great to be motivated, but while you are motivated, you can build some really good habits. And those habits are what's going to get you through to the next level, which habits are really basically just another word for discipline. Because once you've created these habits of time and effort and you enjoy something that you're doing, or you just do it anyway, because that's, you know, what you need to do, that becomes discipline. And once you have the discipline to work out when you don't feel like it, to get up out of bed when you don't feel like it, to get wet when you don't feel like it. Jumping in the pool sometime is one of the hardest things I can do at 6 a.m., right? But I just got to do it. And that is another scoop of that mental toughness. And then that is just a discipline thing that gets you through it. And after that, discipline evolves into mental toughness. That is how it works. So that is the process. In fact, I wrote an article on that too. Maybe I can find it. I think it's called Motivation Evolves into Discipline, and then mental toughness. Let me see if I can find that process, because it was a fun article to write. But you'll find it on the on that one stop landing page that I put in the description of this. See, Abraham says, I think the most important question that'll be asked this morning. Oh, you think this is? Are you looking forward to the Navy uniform release today? Oh, I didn't even know it was happening. I heard something about a change in uniform, but no, not looking forward to it. Don't really care. Maybe somebody who's in the Navy will. So, our female SEAL candidate asks another female SEAL question. Should a female SEAL not date and have sex with other SEALs? I wouldn't if I were you. I mean, it's going to make things really awkward in a work environment. Do not recommend it. So you ask a lot of questions about female SEALs. I want you to take this with you because I've seen a lot of the same questions for over a year from you. And I take it you haven't gotten a good answer. Here's the good answer is yes, there's hasn't been women to make it really into past the first week of SEAL training. And many of them don't even get accepted into SEAL training. Because here's why. They don't focus on meeting the standard. The standards will not be decreased, right? There's no lowering standards for men and women in these professions. You need to be able to hit the standard physically so you can do the job. That's all that really matters. So my suggestion for you is take the same advice that I would give anybody else, male or female. Hit these standards, exceed the standards, because that is the standard, and you will put yourself in a better position to be able to get into training and through training. So that means, yes, running, swimming, lifting, high rep calisthenics, rucking, all of those things that I would advise a male to do, I would advise a female to do as well. So your female SEAL questions, I would stop asking them because it doesn't matter. If you really want to go through buds, do what the guys do. And I will tell you this, 80% of the guys don't make it. So you have to be in that top 20% of the guys if you think you're going to even make it to and through the training. So, yes, it's that hard. But, you know, you could definitely be a better recruit. In fact, I want you to read this. I'm not sure if you're in the recruit phase or not, but your questions are somewhat ridiculous. And I'm not talking about today's question, but your question that you cut and paste and you send it to every SEAL that you think you know, because they send it to me, and I've seen it a dozen times already. So, read that. Be a better recruit. Be a better recruit timeline. It's a great article. If you want to get prepared for buds, male or female, read that article. I'm getting into the fall winter lift cycle. What process do you recommend for your guys to determine training weight for strength and hypertrophy? Well, it's going to change from person to person. So I usually put in a rep range, and you should be able to hit that rep range. And let's say I put 10 reps in there, right? I can't say do 135 pounds, right? I can't do that. You know, a lot of trainers will put like 10% or 50% of your 1 RM. That's not a bad idea if you want to do that. But you can also, the way I do it is, I try to get those 10 reps, but I know if I could have done 15 of them, you can either do 15 and then make your next set heavier so you can only do 10. So that is where we try to go to it. And like if you ever do a 5x5, I always recommend somewhere between 75-80% of your 1 rep max for a 5x5 workout. I think those are really doable, and challenging and great for strength. But yeah, the way I've set up this latest winter lift cycle, which I can't believe I didn't bring it down here. The way I've set up this latest winter lift cycle is it's a 12-week program that lasts all winter. The first 4 weeks are geared for 15 to 20 repetitions, which you could call it a hypertrophy phase. The next 4 weeks are somewhere between 8 and 12 repetitions. So we can call it kind of a hybrid strength phase. And then the final one is 5 and under. So 1 to 5 repetition phase. So we're getting each block of that winter cycle is a different focus, and it's going to be a fun way to do it. And then every 4th week we go back to a calisthenics cardio phase just as a lifting deload. But we're still focusing on some of the calisthenics and cardio gains that we had over the summer. So that is how we're setting up the new winter lift cycle that I just came out with. But that fall winter lift cycle that you have, it's a great one as well. It works. There's some supplemental lifts and calisthenics in there, some extra runs if you want to add those in there too. But I personally like that one. I just didn't use a block periodization model for that. And if you feel like you need a deload week, that's what we did with that one. We just kind of took a deload week where we downshifted some of the repetitions, downshifted some of the weight, and mess around with some calisthenics and cardio just a little bit, but it wasn't a specific deload week like I created with the block periodization models. That's really the only difference between those. But something you could do is every 4th week of that winter lift cycle is just do a calisthenics and cardio week. Pyramids, supersets, Murphs, do something like that. And I think you might have fun with that process too, and see some cool gains and maintenances and maybe even improvements of your calisthenics and cardio, even though you're on a strength cycle. Training sessions or workouts you regretted. The only things I've ever regretted are things I did that I got injured on. So, for instance, here's where if you look back, right, and I've been training now for 40 years, right? I am 53 years old. I started training when I was 13. When I look back at my injuries, it was always from lifting too much weight, running too many miles, doing too many repetitions, running too fast, like sprints, um, and jumping too much, right? So you see the common denominator there is that word too and something too much, too soon, too often, whatever. That is where I got injured. So um, now there's nothing wrong with lifting a lot of weight and running fast and doing things like that, but it does require a logical progression, requires really good warm-ups, and you know 100% sprint out of the blue, especially for me, once I turned 40, always felt like something was going to fall off. Like just one of the wheels are going to fall off. So um, I came up with something about 10 years ago that I called like 80% is the new 100%. And I haven't been injured since I turned 40 because I pulled a hamstring when I was 40 doing a sprint. When I was warmed up, I was ready to go. We were progressively getting faster and doing everything right. And sure enough, that third or fourth sprint, I felt something not necessarily pop to where it was, you know, bloody on my hamstring, like some pulled hamstrings are really, torn. This is just a pull that felt uncomfortable and prevented me from sprinting anymore. I could still jog, but I couldn't sprint anymore. I still do some sprinting, but I will say this, I leave a little bit in the hole. Like I am not trying to run as fast as I can. There's maybe at like 85, 90% full speed. And I find that to be doable. So my training sessions and workouts I regretted are the ones that ego got to me more than practicality. So great question. Have there any major special ops changes or developments in recruitment training pipeline from 2019, beginning of pandemic till now? Hmm. There've been some changes. I would say the biggest changes have been in the Air Force Special Warfare recruitment, prep, and pipeline. They have pretty much created Air Force Special Warfare in the last 5 years, and there've just been a lot of changes throughout that growth model. Really good ones too. I'm very impressed with Air Force Special Warfare. The one for Navy Special Warfare, um, they moved Bud's prep from Great Lakes to Coronado. As far as the major upgrades since the pandemic have been really more in the infrastructure of training, the new buildings, new training facilities. As far as training itself, there haven't been many um, changes or major developments that draw any really change in how you would prepare. I mean, I heard they took out rucking in first phase at Buds. It used to be not be there in the first place, but probably around 2008 they brought it in, and they were just looking at all the different ways people are getting injured, trying to reduce some injuries. We didn't ruck in first phase. I mean, we did a lot of boats and logs and stuff, but we never rucked, and it was never a pass fail evolution. It was just a wasn't a graded event like a 4 mile timed run that you have every week. So yeah, there've been some changes. I think I wouldn't say major changes, except for Air Force Special Warfare. And I guess a major change would be moving Bud's Prep to um, Coronado. Just makes things easier. Any particular exercises you recommend to build mental toughness? I'm been focusing on 8 count bodybuilders, which I absolutely hate. Yeah, doing things you hate, absolutely. Things, put it this way, if you assess yourself, right, give yourself a test on everything that's possible in the fitness realm, right? Power, strength, agility, speed, endurance, run, ruck, swim, muscle stamina, all the calisthenics, flexibility, mobility, grip, all of those things. Assess yourself and see what you suck at, right? I guarantee you anything that you aren't good at doing, you will probably hate doing because you don't like doing them or you aren't used to doing them. It's kind of like the powerlifter guy that hates to run, or the runner who hates the lift, or the swimmer who hates gravity. All of those things will make you tougher. Working on your weaknesses will make you humble and make you tougher for sure. What do you think of the future SEAL team looks like? I'm always impressed by what I see every day. And what I see every day are young people preparing themselves to serve in various jobs within the military, law enforcement, firefighter. That is what they want to do. They are determined to serve at very high levels within special ops programs, SWAT teams, you name it. And the tactical profession is filled with those type of people that are just there to serve something bigger than themselves. As long as that stays true, and I see no reason why it isn't, um, I think our future in this country is going to be okay. Now, some people may look at me and say I'm a little over optimistic and Pollyannish, but I see what I see. I don't see what people stereotype the younger generation as being, snowflakes, or whatever you want to call them. You know, looking at their phone all the time. I see people who are getting after it and want to better themselves and serve others. So, long as I keep seeing that, I'm hopeful that we're heading in the right direction. Now, could other people be a little more selfless? Oh, absolutely. Not saying it's perfect, but I see people every day that are busting their ass to be better and to serve. So that's what I think the future looks like. It's all good to me. If that doesn't answer your question, then ask something a little more specific, because that's pretty darn general. How many miles a week do you recommend to prepare for Marine Corps OCS? I just finished your OCS prep and was running around 15 miles a week. That's not bad. Long as you can run those 15 miles a week fast, that's the key. Because your OCS, yeah, you're going to be rucking too. You're going to be running, but the runs that count the most are that 3 mile timed run. Could you be up to 25 and 30? Sure. It's not going to hurt you. But I would say um, a lot of people have used that program and crushed Marine Corps OCS, even with 15 miles a week. But those 15 miles a week have to be fast. They can't be 9-minute pace, working on your aerobic base. There's plenty of ways to work on your aerobic base. And if you feel like you need to add miles to it, add miles to it. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, we just had a guy finish OCS yesterday or Saturday, and he trained with us all year. So, and he wasn't running more than 20 miles a week. Did fine. Nutrition on races and PS day, before, after, during. Before, during, after. Um, funny you should mention that because I have an article called The ABDs of Nutrition. And it is stands for after, before, during. But I thought that was pretty neat. ABDs. I didn't come up with that, but it was I referenced the guy who did in the article, a nutritionist. But that's a really really good question. In fact, I'm going to see fuel for PST training day, nutrition. I'm just Googling it. Put my name in the thing because I know I've written an article about it. ABDs of nutrition recovery. This is a good article. Check out this one. This article is in the. It's pretty much a basic article. This is a really good one here because this one takes it to another level. Nutrition for energy, eat, sleep, and recover. So it talks about the balance of your fuelings. But there are some fueling strategies that I'm looking for. Fueling strategy, nutrition, Stu Smith. Let's see what that looks like. I will say this. I did a podcast with one of my Tactical Fitness Report podcasts with Nick Barringer. He's a nutritionist, PhD, and we talk about this for fitness testing, hard events, fueling strategies. All right, so here's one. It's for the Army Combat Fitness Test. So it's a fitness test, but check out this article. I just put it in the description, or I'm sorry, the what you call it, the comment section, and it's a good one. So check out that one. Talks about before, during, and after for sure. Sir, for long sprints, would you recommend one long straight run or shorter distances with lots of change of direction, like going back and forth? Well, those are two different things. I would definitely do both of them. One will help you run faster, and the other one will help you with your agility. So, two different things. I like to do both. So, it's not an either or question. My suggestion would be to fit both of those types of runs into your training program, especially if you're going to see change of direction testing in your future. So, for instance, the Army Combat Fitness Test has 2 by 25-yard runs. So you run 25 yards, then you carry kettlebells 25 yards, kettlebell 25 yards running. Then you carry a sled 25 yards back, and then you do another sprint 25 yards back. That sprint drag carry is a good challenge, and if you have those types of challenges in your future training, I would recommend doing them. If you just want to be well-rounded and practice speed and agility, that's two ways to do it right there. So, yes, would recommend it. Thanks for information on seasonal periodization and for having all of us live. Yeah, no problem. Let's face it, it's cold. How do you get over that feeling of extreme sleepiness when your body warms up from being out in the cold? I don't know. I think it just happens. Um, I was cold this morning. I was pretty sleepy, though I did sleep well, but some reason I just woke up kind of tired. And I always tell people this, and this is true for myself as well. I give myself this advice is give it 10 minutes. So what I usually do in those 10 minutes is I start warming up. And my warm ups look like this. I do a squat or a push up and run like 100 yards, do two squats or push up, run back 3, 4, 5, 6. And by the time I get to 7 or 8, I'm feeling pretty warmed up. And then I finish that with a mile. So that usually takes somewhere around 10 minutes to complete, maybe 12. Um, and at that point, I'm ready to go. So that takes away all coldness, tiredness, and you're in the zone ready to compete. So you got to give yourself 10 minutes if you're finding yourself battling uh, just being tired, cold, not feeling like working out. Give yourself 10 minutes with a good warm up like that, and you'll be over it. Where can I get your winter lift schedule at? StuSmithFitness.com. You will see it. It's up on that front page there. And what we're doing this winter, actually, it's not even winter yet. It's fall. This is what we're doing right now. I put it in advance. Fall transition training, mix of cows, cardio, and weights. So what we're doing right now is we're progressing into our winter lift cycle. And I completed that winter lift cycle, and it's called this too. It's called Seasonal Tactical Fitness Periodization. There will be 4 books in this series. This is the fall one. The winter one is done. That's what we are doing this winter. And I am almost done with the spring. Probably will have spring done by the end of this weekend. Um, and then I'll work on the summer of next year before the end of the year. So I'll have all 4 of these series, spring, summer, fall, winter, done by the new year. So probably before Christmas even. So those would be my 4 books I created this year. Actually 5, because I did do a spring training one earlier this year. So there's a whole bunch over there at StuSmithFitness.com, and they're all like, if you're getting one of these are Spec Ops related. I mean, this is what we are doing here with my Spec Ops candidates: running, rucking, swimming, lifting, calisthenics, fireman carries, you name it. It's all types. Let's see. Steven asks, best body weight training split for putting on mass. Good question. I like to break up my splits a little bit. I will typically do an upper body, lower body mobility day, upper body, lower body. And it depends on that 6th day. I'll either do a third upper body or I'll do a more cardio based core workout. But that's how I do it. But there's nothing wrong with doing a push pull leg, especially if you're trying to put on some mass. Um, all your pushing exercises, pulling exercises the next day, put leg exercises that third day, maybe then do it again, push pull leg. So you get 6 workouts in a week. Maybe make that 7th workout more of an easy mobility day type rest day, and then do it again. So push pull legs or upper body, lower body is what I tend to do. 38 pulled a hammy during sprints this summer. Thanks yeah, man. I'm telling you, I pulled one when I was in my 30s as well, and then I did it again in my 40s because I hadn't learned. Is just something that it tends to happen easier as we get older. And the unfortunate part is we tend to not be able to recover as fast as those and be able to sprint again soon as we probably could in our teens and early 20s. So, um, yeah, 80% is new 100%. And start that mobility day too before you turn 40. You'll be glad you did. Let's see, what to eat when going rucking. Well, the cool thing about rucking is you can carry food with you. You know, something I carry with me is everything from nuts to um, what is the little thing like gummy bears for sugar. You know, hydration, of course. Um, for electrolytes, if I'm sweating profusely, something I really like is chicken noodle soup. So I will actually have a can of chicken noodle soup in my bag and just pound it, especially if I'm starting to cramp or feel like I'm really starting to not feel 100%, getting kind of lightheaded and dizzy, because that's usually where it starts coming from. Got to pound the water and you got to put in some electrolytes if you're sweating profusely. So chicken noodle soup is like my secret. I had a guy, we're doing a summer workout. It's like 9 in the morning. It's already like 95 degrees and humid here in Maryland over the summer. And we were doing what I call the Blue Falcon workout, which is a lot of different exercises from bear crawls and fireman carries and lunges and kettlebell farmer walks and swings and pull ups and burpees, just everything that's pretty hard in this one workout with a partner. It's fun. Fun workout though. Anyway, he was like crawling on all fours and then he just had this full body cramp. Like you could tell that, it was a Saturday morning. He probably went out Friday night and helped himself become more dehydrated because of that. Um, anyway, he was all ball, couldn't move. I mean, like to the point of where if he'd have kept on doing something, it had probably turned into a heat exhaustion, heat stroke type thing. So I pulled him out, got him in my car, and I said, here's my top secret piece of advice for you. Opened up a can of chicken noodle soup, said, down this in the next 5 minutes. And he did. And then he got out of the car, like walking around and was like, man, I feel pretty good. I wouldn't let him back in to the training program just because it wouldn't be long before he's probably hot again and overheated. So just kept him hydrated and, he felt fine in about 10 minutes. So if that ever happens to you in the summer and you're really overheated, that is my secret recipe for treating dehydration and low electrolytes. I basically treat dehydration the way your mom would the flu. Like what makes you feel good whenever you have the flu? You've been throwing up and crapping everywhere for the last day. You got no electrolytes in you because you shit them out and throw them up. Um, what is it that makes you feel better? Chicken noodle soup. So give it a shot. It works really well. But that's what I eat when going rucking. So before, during, after, it really doesn't change, you know, same as we saw before in that article, the ABDs of nutrition. So, any specific tip for CSS breathing? I feel like I am desperate for air every turnaround. Also, I just can't keep my rhythm. I'm breathing after the first 50 meters. So, I have an article written just for you, and it is called Dude, You're Not in Swimming Shape. And I just put it in the description below. Read that. It's really good. It gives you a great workout that you can get in better swimming shape. But that's all it is. You might be a great runner, but you're not in swimming shape. Um, my suggestion is work on your timing. If timing is an issue with your breathing, and time it with your pull, because you really, if you think about it, you're only going to breathe when you use your arms, right? Because you're gliding out here when you're not when you're underwater, so you're not breathing at this point, you're exhaling, right? But right when you kick and you're in this glide position, now when this arm pulls, your face is now turning out of the water and you're ready to inhale with that bottom arm pull. So if you're not familiar with the actual timing of the stroke, you need to see another article that I wrote called Pull, Breathe, Kick, Glide, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, Repeat. That's the name of the article because that is the sequence of the combat swimmer stroke. So read those two articles. It will help you tremendously. How far out from going to the recruiter to be a SEAL should I wait till I get your info to help? Not quite sure what you're asking there, but here's the deal. Don't even talk to a recruiter until you are crushing the PST. I don't know if that has to do with my info or not, but don't waste your time and your recruiter's time by showing up there out of shape, unable to pass a PST, and then all you do is just fail the PST week after week after week, and then you don't get a SO contract because you didn't get to the training. So crush the PST, then go talk to a recruiter. Otherwise, no one's going to take you seriously, and you're just going to be, put into the delayed entry program, and they're going to tell you your ship date, and you don't get to go to BUDS. So you screw up your timeline when you go talk to a recruiter. So you need to be ready to go when you talk to a recruiter. And then once you are crushing the PST, you can really focus on getting through BUDS by doing more 4-mile timed runs, doing more swimming with fins, lifting some weights just if you need to prepare yourself for boats and logs and rucking and soft sand and all that. So a lot more to BUDS than just the PST. Should you stretch before and after swimming? What stretches do you recommend? Yeah, I like stretching, but I like warming up before I do anything. So if I'm going to go run for a long period of time, like this weekend, I ran 8 miles on Saturday. On that first mile, or I should say right after that first mile, I did a stretch for about 5 minutes. And that was stretching my calves, stretching my hamstrings, stretching my thighs, stretching my hips. That's what I did before I ran. Then we went swimming and we swam a mile. So about 5 minutes into that swim, I was stretching my shoulders, stretching my triceps, stretching my biceps, stretching my lats, because you will pull with your lats, and stretching my hips a little bit more, kind of running in place, doing some chest deep dynamic stretches like leg swings, front and back, high knee kicks, things like that. So that's what I do before and after swimming and running, for that matter. So there you go. Yep. Give yourself 10 minutes. It works. Is Sunday a day free of training for you? Yes. I work out pretty hard Monday through Saturday to a point where I enjoy my Sundays. Are pretty easy. In fact, my Sundays are typically a walk or bike and a lot of stretching. So I came up with something that I call my Mobility 30, where you spend 30 minutes on any given day. And sometimes I'll do this also on my Monday through Saturday days where I'll take my dog for a walk, stretch while my dog stops, does his business, I'll stretch. And every 5 minutes or so, we'll stretch. And that's what I'll do on these Sunday walks or bikes is walk for 5 minutes, stretch for 5 minutes, walk for 5 minutes, stretch for 5 minutes. And I'll usually do that for half an hour, 45 minutes and call it a day. But that is what I do. But I will tell you this, if you suck at mobility and flexibility, none of that is easy. I mean, the walking's easy, but the stretching is not easy. You know, if if you're not keeping up with your flexibility and mobility, you should um, at least assess yourself regularly to see if you're tight. And if you are, you should loosen up a little bit. So let's see. A couple more questions. Then I got to go. It's almost an hour. Man, how do you recommend spending your weekends off while at Buds? Just like I just mentioned, stretching, walking, nursing your wounds if you got any open cuts. Um, some people would do hot tubs and things like that. But yeah, extra sleep, eat. Yeah, usually what I would do is I grab a couple classmates and we go get a big burrito somewhere, hang out, sit in the sun, walk around barefoot, let our feet dry out. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good times. Hydrate, get your gear ready, rest, sleep, eat. Do they still do the PST after buds also? No. But it also depends on what you're doing. Like the last time you'll take the PST will be in prep. And really during buds, you don't take it again. Um, there's other tests you have to do. They don't really care about that PST. Your 500-yard swim turns into a weekly 2-mile ocean swim. Your mile and a half timed run turns into a weekly 4-mile timed run. Your pull up, push up, sit ups turns into a couple of grinder PTs, a week. And then you got logs and boats and you got plenty of other things that are going to test you. After buds, yeah, you'll probably take a different type of PST. They've been making changes to it for a while. There's a human performance test that's out there that's in special warfare. Yeah, you can check those out. It's a little bit different. It's running, swimming, rucking, bench pressing, deadlifts, shuttle runs, things like that. I'm going to go to Buds after I join the Navy, but I want to take time to improve first. Will I have time to prep in the Navy or should I prep before I enlist? Here's the problem, Sean, is just because you join the Navy and you go do another job for a couple of years, there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the problem with that is depending on your job that you select, you're in a community. Let's say you're a corpsman and your job is medical. Well, if the corpsman community is undermanned, you're not leaving that community to go to Buds, right? No matter what job you're in, if it's undermanned, chances are you're not going to be able to go to Buds within a 2-3 year period of being in the military. And here's the other kicker. Let's say you joined the Navy in 2020. It is now 2022. If the SEAL community has everybody that they need from year group 2020, you will not go to Buds as a member of the 2020 year group. And you can't change year groups. It's just the way it works. The only way you can get around that would be to, let's say the 2020 year group is full. You have a college degree, you enlist, do something else. And the only way you could get around that would be to apply to be an officer and go to OCS, then go to Buds. I've seen guys do that. Or I've seen them do their time, get out, and then go Army Special Forces because they couldn't get back to Buds. So there's not an easy way from the Navy to get to Buds. It happens, but it doesn't happen as frequently as you think. Most people who go to Buds go to boot camp with a Buds contract, then they go to Buds. So before you consider that, And your recruiter doesn't care how you join the Navy, by the way. They're going to sign you up in a heartbeat. And they'll say, oh, yeah, you can go to Buds. You just got to give it a couple of years. You can go to Buds. What they don't tell you is what I just told you. Year group and community eligibility. Are you able to leave that community because it's overmanned? If you're lucky and it's overmanned, they'll let you go. When are you guys starting the winter lift cycle? In the winter. No, seriously. Winter starts December 21st, and we will probably start our winter lift cycle the week of Christmas or the week after Christmas. So it is literally a seasonal program. When it's winter, it'll be our winter lift cycle. Maybe a week off before or after. Are there exercises you would recommend no longer doing as you get older? Squats, deadlifts. Trying to think. A lot of that depends on your injury history and medical history. Because there are some things that some people can't do because they have high blood pressure or, they have spinal fusions. But if you're relatively healthy, nursing the typical aches and pains of a 50, 60, 70-year-old, I don't see there being anything that you can't do. I still do squats, still do deadlifts, still run, swim, do a lot of calisthenics. Good question though. I need to give it some more thought. Yeah. But no, I don't see. I mean, it may get lighter. I will tell you this, some of my rules for deadlifting now is, I used to deadlift 2.5 times my body weight. I don't do that anymore, right? I'm probably build up to 1.5 times my body weight. So as a 200-pound person, I'm pretty happy with a 300-pound deadlift for 5-6 reps. I'm not trying to lift a truck anymore. Squats, same thing. Somewhere between body weight and body weight and a half is plenty for me. Bench press, same thing. In fact, I don't even really go body weight and a half anymore for bench press. So probably go like 275, for a few reps. But I tend to keep it at my body weight now versus going. I'd rather do body weight for reps versus way much heavier now, like I used to. So 5'4", 120. What would a good goal weight be for Buds where I can still run fast and swim fast? Man, that's light and small. But good news is I've seen guys do it. So I would say probably at that height, not a whole lot heavier, 130, 140 maybe. But at that height, we had a dude that was like 5'2" and was about 155 pounds. So he was a stocky little fella, and he made it through. But I will tell you, short people have a really hard time with the obstacle course. There's a couple obstacles there that require a really big jump and catch. So being 120s probably good at that, but then you also want to be strong enough so you don't get crushed under boats and logs, because at that weight you probably will. So I would suggest being pound for pound very strong. Like work on your strength, because that's going to matter at that size for sure. And work on your jumping, because you'll need to be able to jump. Are you aware of anything like an over dependency of water during exercise. I find that I'm typically thirsty after almost every set at the gym, and that doesn't seem practical. Um, no, I drink a lot too um, during workouts. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a over dependency though. I used to call, in fact, me and a buddy of mine used to work out together, and he'd call me a water buffalo because I would always be drinking water. Um, but I never felt like I had a issue with it. You know, could there be an issue with it? Like if you're in the middle of a 20-mile ruck and you run out of water? Maybe. I don't know. But unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer for you other than I wouldn't be too concerned about it unless it's a symptom of something else. And if you look up, I mean, you probably Google and scare yourself if you look it up too much, but it could be something that you've eaten. Do you eat a lot of salty foods that make you thirsty? Um, do you eat, um, or eating a lot of carbs? Sometimes sugar makes you thirsty. Uh, sometimes, anyway, take a look at it. Make sure it's not something medical that's causing that extra thirst. Some diabetics are really thirsty all the time. So, not saying that's you, but um, I would rule that out before I would really concern myself with too much. What are some ideal strength training exercises? Well, this is going to be the last question because I got to go. I mean, you can build your strength through calisthenics to a degree. Right, dips and pull-ups, I call the heavy lifting of calisthenics exercises because you're actually pulling and pushing your body weight or a significant portion of your body weight over that bar. Um, so you can build your strength with push-ups too. I mean, let's put it this way. Your first pull-up is a strength exercise. Your 20th pull-up is a muscle stamina endurance exercise. So that's something you need to understand. And any weight training is going to be a strength training exercise. Whether you start off with 12 reps, drop down to 8 reps, and drop down to 2 to 3 reps, those are progressions that, as you get heavier with your weight and do fewer reps, you're going to put on more strength. But if you look into this is a nice little transition. And there are pictures of such exercises in here from lifting a log, farmer carries, fireman carries. Like who said you need weights? There you got weights too. Deadlift, hang cleans, power cleans, push presses, thrusters, deadlifts, squats, bench press, overhead press. There are countless strength training exercises. All right. So tomorrow I'll be back. We'll do some combat swimmer stroke training. Um, let me know if you guys have any videos you want me to critique. Happy to critique them. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. Chat a little bit more about what you guys want to chat about. All right, folks. I got to go. I will see you guys tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We'll do some swimming discussions. You guys have a good one.